feel like my life APM's got to be pretty high because I multitask a lot. I admin an event while casting, while telling you guys in Twitch chat off and banning people, and you know, I feel like my APM generally is pretty good. Bottom left of this best of 5 finals from ESL Open Cup NA 171. This is Dark from Dragon Kaiser Gaming in the bottom left corner. Top right, our blue Terran player from Team Liquid, Clem, in this best of 5. He's going to open with a proxy rax. Hello! Call the police. Clem has been abducted and somebody's playing on his account. What is going on? Clem never proxy raxes. I can count on 2 hands still the number of times I've casted Clem playing proxy rax. Eternal Empire, Red Bull, the Red Bull event, Zalnaga Finest versus Raynor that time, game 2. That was a proxy rax from Clem. There's like 3 other times he's proxy raxed. This is not a Clem thing to do. It is with a gas early as well. Wow, okay, this is wild. This is just not very Clem. Like, I've always said one of Clem's biggest weaknesses is that he's so confident in his TVZ that he refrains from doing stuff like this, and that does take away from a little bit of his talent as a player, or not necessarily talent, but ability to be scary as a player, because it's something that players don't expect him to mix in at all, so they play like they don't expect him to mix it in. And it's something he could really just kind of force Zergs to be a bit more scared of him by doing it more frequently, and here we are, he's going to crank it out here. Now, this isn't a Marine proxy, it's a Reaper proxy. That I'm actually even, you know, I think fairly fair to say, more surprised about, because who the hell was expecting a Reaper proxy? I mean, Reaper proxy definitely isn't super common as well. Okay. Well, like I say, this is just very unlike Clem, and Dark, you can see, is not really scouting. Well, he scouted upwards for a proxy, I guess, so it's not like he's not scouting for a proxy at all. As now the drone's going to realize this bunker was on the way up in the main base. The point of the bunker over there, you think, well, it's not really in range of anything. It's more about just having access for somewhere for the Reaper to hide in. So if the Reapers just have a safe haven to pull back to all the time, that's really nice. They don't have to jump out of the base to regenerate. They can just stay there and stay close by. Not going to lose the SCV, though, so this bunker is pretty much just going to be cancelled. We might keep it for a few moments, because sometimes it can maybe absorb a shot instead of the Reapers getting hit if, like, an auto attack goes off or so. As the Spinecrawler finishes in the main base, that will be pretty much just off limits for these Reapers to find anything. We do have Reaper number 3 showing up, and Reaper number 4 and Reaper number 5 now building as well. So, going up to 5 Reapers. Obviously, Spinecrawler moves to the front now. We're going to block the Spine from burrowing for a few months to the Reapers, although I don't think you can stop that happening forever, so it's not really a goal of yours. It was just kind of the Reapers was where the Spine wanted to be. Link speed coming up. Obviously, once that link speed is done, this becomes a whole bunch easier, so keep our eyes out for that. Queens come through. Reapers get punched away. Spinecrawler at the front, already turning that Reaper around as well, so nicely done there. Let's do punch that back and able to just, again, keep the Reapers zoned out. Now, the big thing Clem is going to be gaining out of this from here is the fact that this is not going to be a third hatchery quickly from Dark. So Dark cannot get a third hatchery down. That's going to give Clem a good little bit of extra control. This Overlord Scout and everything, by the way, sees that Clem's on a late natural command center too. Sure, yeah, that's great and all, but again, a late third hatch is a pretty big deal on the Zerg side of things. That slows down your ability to produce. It slows down just so much of what you usually get into in these games that I would genuinely say I'm a little bit concerned as to what's going to happen next. A couple of extra barracks coming down. Going to just go fly back home. The Reaper's actually getting a little caught. I'd say they've actually had pretty good grenades, though, and are doing a very good job of keeping the Lings back and getting at least a good amount of trades here. Oh, I'm very impressed by how these Reapers have done. I mean, you expect them to go down when this Ling speed gets a catch like this. Clem really did well. I mean, 20 Lings died. Gonna get a couple more at the very end here. I mean, never great necessarily to lose the Reapers to Lings, but I feel like he made the most of it. I guess our question now becomes how easily can he move to the natural. Clem's follow-up, by the way, a battlecruiser as well. Clem is just, I mean, it feels like he's just kind of playing StarCraft build order roulette. You know, he's spinning the ball and it's landing on, oh, proxy racks. He's like, okay, I'll proxy racks. It's like, well, you know, they never said, well, oh, Reapers, okay. Spins it again. He's like, oh, battlecruiser follow-up, okay. You know, Clem's just going wild in this first game. Going to be very creative, very kind of make it difficult for Dark to guess what's going on or just straight up figure out what's going on. Never mind guessing. Guess all you like. Actually try and see what's happening here and figure out what it is. That ain't easy. What did the Overlord see actually early? Just the starport in the tech lab? Never saw the fusion core, right? So he doesn't have full information. Obviously, like I say, you can maybe piece together certain pieces of this puzzle. Has not seen natural gases, so doesn't have any indicators towards this being potentially like a mech follow-up. And again, that late third hatchery now about to finish from Dark, so he can start to get a bit back on track with some of his economy all over again as well. This is a really wild game, though. Like, this really is something just a little bit wonky as our Hellions coming around, trying to go after a couple of drones. Will not succeed in that. Queen's getting a few more shots off. Hellions get pushed away just a little bit further. Hellions trying to get a circle or so that come up the ramp, and now just seeing our battlecruiser Hellions will continue now. Queens will continue to spread. A little bit of additional creep spread. Second starport, guys. Oh my god, what the hell are we doing? Are we really going to start double starport battlecruisers? Is that what we're about to go for? The drones going down as we do have our Vikings still hunting overlords on the map as well. So talk about Dark not being allowed vision. He ain't allowed to see a thing. We'll see that first BC now teleporting into that corner, so watch out for that. Because it is going to have a good time in this mineral line, I think. You jump in. First couple of drones already begin to go down. The Queen beginning to go down as well. So Queen does receive a transfusion at least. First Queen drops. I mean, if we're going to keep building a ton of BCs, I guess the more Queens we kill, the better it's going to be. Because you're taking away the answer that Dark would like to have. Hellions stop the left side base being saturated. A threat there to keep Dark from, like I said, just getting established quickly into even further economy. BC shots coming now, getting some hits onto this Evo chamber wall that's now being built as well, so establishing that. And again, just Clem consistently being aggressive with these Hellions, looking for chances, looking for openings like this one where we get by, we get rid of a drone, and then we get to pull away again too. Two more factories behind this barracks being used as add-on makers. And they will just provide some tech labs for those factories so we can begin to produce, I imagine, a set of Cyclones behind this, or are we just going to go straight into tanks, do you think? We may not need to play a Hellion Cyclone at all here because you've already had and you still have the BCs on the map as harassing units. So maybe you get away with just playing kind of Hellion tanks straight off the bat. And then the BCs continue to harass, continue to be the threat on the map. You don't need the Cyclones to create too much map control for you. And we'll see here very soon. Clem's also very gas extinct right now. Like, he just doesn't have gas at all. So he doesn't really necessarily have the gas to build Cyclones or tanks. Maybe initially we'll just continue to produce some Hellions alongside like a Blue Flame and maybe another upgrade. Here come the BCs and the Hellions pushing at the front here. Ling's getting us around, but the Hellions will just roast through them. Yamato's to take down more of these Queens. And now Dark's realizing just how serious a commitment this is. He's like, this ain't good. This ain't pretty. He starts up a Spire as a response to seeing the extra BCs arriving at the front. And I mean, a reasonable first attack. The Hellions got a lot of Lings. 5 drones go down. The battlecruisers have traded well also, but I wouldn't say that Clem's kind of broken through Dark or anything. A few of these overlords will take a few taps, but will not actually go down. So, double BC's still just going to hang around here. We do call for Roach that tries to go across the map as well. There's a few units moving across the map for a counterattack, but not sure they're going to be as impactful as just this continued BC play. It's a few Roaches. There's a BC at home. Let's see what the BC is going to continue doing over here. As I jumped away, we actually saw a BC die, so the battlecruiser will go down. And obviously that's the step-by-step method of dealing with this. The BC that was defending now on offense, teleporting across, just letting the Hellions and the Viking deal with the continued Roaches on the other side. But the BCs over here, until the Spire is in play, these BCs will just continue to trade against Queens and honestly do very well. Queens are out of transfusions too, so they're just being nuked down by the auto attacks of the battlecruisers now. Overlord's dropping as well. And Dark in just straight up trouble trying to deal with this. 2 Corruptors on the way out. Dark doesn't even have the money to build a respectful or responsible amount of Corruptors to deal with this. Now he's got 4 on the way, but that is not going to be enough, I don't think. SCV's had to pull to deal with these Roaches, and there's actually still more Roaches coming. Maybe could do with one of these BCs having stayed at home. We have got a Siege Tank on the way out. That should help to stabilize against these Roach attacks. Although we've got some Lings showing up now too, and Dark is keeping it a little bit chaotic by continuing these attacks on the other side. BC is going to Yamato, the first Corruptor that shows up. Spore's trying to move in position. BCs will just fight against these, takes down the first. They'll take down the second, moving out of this range of the Spore in the back to minimize damage taken. I mean, 10 SCVs going down. The damage Dark is doing is necessary because otherwise Clem would have been off and away. 75, 80 workers against 55. Now it's, I mean, still not good for Dark. He's down by 10 workers. It's never going to be good, but more respectable. This BC did have a teleport as well. I didn't think he had it. I thought it might be being on cooldown, but he had it when he needed it. He gets away. BC is all out alive, apart from that initial one we saw going down, and that is just going to mean that they get repaired and set to go again as Dark does nothing but drone and build Corruptors. Well, you know those BCs are getting Yamato down, all these new Corruptors, you know those drones have got a lot of work to catch up on because they've been down in numbers for so long at this stage. Now this is 100% looking very good for Clem in this opening game of this finals of an ESL Open Cup. Gotta say, I'm very impressed with how this has been done. Just realized, by the way, sorry, give me 1 sec, just pop the ESL logo on, just to make sure I don't get in any trouble when I'm casting the ESL replays. I like to follow the rules. Just forgot to pop that on earlier. I'm sorry, ESL admins, I apologize. 2 BCs are actually going to come wandering down to the bottom left corner of the map, so they're going to make their way down to the south. We do have the Cyclones, the Infernal Pre-Igniter, Aliens all continuing up at the moment, and SCV is going to transfer over to the right side. We have that 4th base beginning to saturate. Corruptors are going to show up, and we do see our BC is going to turn to fight. Bang, bang, and we get rid of a couple Corruptors. BCs teleport straight out of there. Five more Corruptors continuing up. I mean, you just have to build these Corruptors, and that's what makes this mech style viable with the BCs. Because you're forcing your opponent to make Corruptors all the time, they have to A, have that amount of supply synced into Corruptors, so it's not supply that can't overwhelm the ground army. And also, it's supply that you're constantly picking off with the battle cruisers, so you find efficiency throughout the game, which is also a big benefit. You know, it's just kind of a guaranteed bit of efficiency every single time the Yamatos go off. And the Corruptors have to be made again because you can't have them not be made because you got to deal with the BC somehow. And that's the frustrating part of this BC kind of mech style. That's why it became so viable. That's why it actually worked out. I'm just pushing forward with the tanks. Obviously the BC is a little bit vacant from this initial push, but here they are now. 5 of them showing up. And we got more Cyclones coming in from the side. Some of the Cyclones getting lock-ons onto Corruptors. We're just going to Yamato our butts off here with the BCs. We're going to lose one pretty quickly though. 1 BC going down. Of course, Clem starts this fight with a pretty hefty supply lead, and it's going to fall back towards another Yamato, a teleport out. Cyclones and tanks put mega damage in. This ground army is not going to see an escape. We see another teleport away. Love that Clem didn't just teleport them all away at once, just getting every bit of value out of these BCs, keeping them all alive at the same time. Just adding to the effectiveness of this attack, and Clem really looks as though he's running away with this game number 1. It's looked like that for a while. He's had the supply lead, but it just doesn't seem as though Dark has a true answer to this army. You know, sometimes you got to expect Dark to have a trick up his sleeve or a cheeky answer when you weren't expecting him to, but that's just not the case here. As the Cyclones retreat away, Roach is trying to chase, but will not be able to do too much. Another shot or two, but not, again, going to find too much at all there. And again, the Cyclones just end up backing it up. 1-1 vehicle weapons and plating built out of the armories. And again, Roaches and Corruptors will try and come down to the south. But our siege tank just escaping away to the sides. A little attack over on the left, by the way. Hellions just running into a mineral line. I'm just going to nuke down a few of those drones as well. Just at this point, damage you can't afford to take is Dark on 66 workers against 91 SCVs. It ain't pretty to be as gone Ancient Cistern in game 1. Actually gives you a good chance as Clem in this series, because I would imagine Ancient was the map pick here of Dark. Usually Ancient is a veto for the Terran players alongside Altitude when we talk about best of 3s. Good little burrow play here, cancels the lock-ons of the Cyclones to minimize the damage they can deal. And the Yamatos are back, and goodbye Corruptors as explosions go off in the skies. Corrupted debris falls all over the Roach Ravager, demoralizing them from continuing to fight. Dark continues to push them forward anyways, but I don't imagine it's going to be long before we see GGs, because right now, we're about to see these BCs take over all the Corruptors, and with no response to the battlecruisers anymore, obviously then, the BCs just kill everything on the ground as a follow-up as well, and that's why the GG was pretty much inevitable once he realized that those BCs weren't going down, just as the true killing blow in this best of 5 game 1. Clem opens up with a 1-0 lead. Series, we have got ourselves in the top left-hand corner the red Zerg player who does not have much luck in game number 1, Dragon Gaming's Dark. Bottom right-hand side from Team Liquid are blue. Terran player is Clem. Game 2 of our best of 5. Clem with a 1-0 lead in the series. And on we go to figure out whether it's going to be Clem or Dark to win this second game. Babylon would be the Terran map pick here, so we'll see. Like I say, what Clem kind of comes up with, see what he kind of shows us, see what the plan kind of turns out to be. Let's see, just a barracks at the front as a starting point, an SCV in production too, bringing that up as well. A few drones and a hatchery, nothing really too wild on the start. Okay, I mean, obviously last game we started off with the proxy rack, so it's already a pretty major difference from what we saw last time. Why does Zerg start at 14 pop and Terran at 15? Just because command center and hatcheries are worth different amounts of supply. Zerg also starts with an overlord, right? So basically a hatchery is worth less supply, because when you build you build more hatcheries as a Zerg. It's like something that was, in theory balanced out a long time ago. So that the Zerg, hatcheries are worth less supply, because you kind of need... Hatcheries also act as your production. So obviously it would be kind of insane if instead of, if hatcheries provided a lot more supply, why even build overlords? Just build more hatcheries, then you have even more production, natural creep spread being built, etc., etc. There would be a meta where, like, building a hatch is actually better than building overlords or something, right? But that's, that'd be kind of crazy. So it's just one of those things that was balanced a long time ago, and the game's obviously just now balanced around that. Or was just set up a long time ago, and now it's just balanced around that in general. Reaper and some Lings will dot around. We do see our Reaper taking a few extra shots. Just about able to get away in the end, though, so it does sneak on out of there. So Reaper gets out, away we go. Overlord still moving around a little bit as we see our starport also dropping down. So far, so good. See now, starport going to lift off, move over to Tech Lab. Barracks going to move over to the side as well. We're just going to see our Banshee, couple Hellions, the Ling Speed, all of this continuing up for the moment. As you see our Reaper and a couple of Hellions continuing in as well. So just going to see that coming up towards the top now as the hatchery takes a little ping. Queen's on the way out, Ling Speed about halfway done. With that Cloak coming up, we'll have our Banshees obviously able to get on the map. And we know Cloak Banshees can be very good at harassing, so expecting those to have a shot at doing something here. Queen's coming over and continue to chase the Reaper and the few Hellions away, so just continue to hunt that down. Over on the sides. And yeah, just again, Banshee, Hellions, Cloak, all of that coming up. The few Lings go chasing down the Reaper. So Reaper will be hunted just a little bit. The Ling's going to get blasted by a grenade. We're just kind of full scout. I mean, you always want to scout against Dark because you never quite know what he's going to bring out, especially when Dark is this player who oftentimes wants to go into, like, roaches way earlier than anybody else will, and he's just so willing to be so malleable in his openings, and that's obviously a threat. And that's kind of, what I was talking about from Clem in the last game, where it's like, if he's someone that suddenly does proxy racks more often, all of a sudden, everyone's got to respect Clem that much more and be that much more afraid of him. Well, that's obviously a pretty big deal, right? That goes a long way, so yeah, something to consider. Wardy, do you think Overseer should cost a supply because it seems more than just a building? I don't think it can, because otherwise, like, you know, the entire game is balanced around an Overseer not having a supply, and say you want to morph an Overseer and your supply block, you know, morph an Overseer against DTs, but your supply block, because, like, I don't know, they killed a hatchery, like, you know, for whatever reason, it's just super punishing, right? Like, Overseers are already very gas expensive, so, I mean, what do they really provide? Do they provide a unit? You know, they're not really a unit, like, yeah, an observer. The thing is, losing your Overseer is already doubly punishing, right? Because, you know, while you lose an observer that does cost supply, for example, you know, is also expensive, yes, but it doesn't take away supply that you have. Whereas if you lose an Overseer, it's actually quite expensive because it's, you know, providing supply as well, and it was expensive to make. I don't think so. A, the game is balanced around it, but B, I think, you know, it's not really necessary. I don't think the Overseer does enough as a unit to justify supply. Like, yes, it provides detection, but it's also still a risky kind of detector. And obviously when you see, like, mass Overseers in late game, like, maybe you can say, like, well, should they be able to spam so many Overseers? That still comes at an expense at that point, right? And, you know, it's typically kind of necessary because you need to be careful of, you know, losing that detection stuff. I don't know. I mean, every game, you know, I think it's obviously every race is different, you know, that's what makes StarCraft great, and you look at all these intricacies of, like, well, it shouldn't Overseer cost supply? I mean, you can make an argument that, yeah, maybe it should. Maybe it should just cost one supply to have an Overseer. Maybe it costs a supply, but you can also build it whilst, you can also build an Overseer while supply block, for example. Would maybe be, like, a cool, a weird thing, but, like, obviously the game is so far developed now that I don't think you can just add a supply cost to the Overseer. Anyways, we do have our 5 drones going down. Banshee's continuing to put some pressure on. I mean, worker kill count is rising up, but this is at the cost of a lot of Hellions of Clem. He's given up all 10 Hellions in the game so far. And if you lose 10 Hellions, that's obviously quite expensive. That's a lot of your map control. He's playing mech, though. So those Hellions are more expendable than usual, because, of course, you're playing mech. You're going to replace them more easily. The Hyperflight rotors on these Banshees as well, so they want to continue harassing and dealing some damage. And Clem just bringing a different style of mech into game 2, so just taking a very mech-heavy approach into this best of 5. Infernal Pre-Igniter, Magfield Accelerator, both in production. The Siege Tank's still on the way out as well as we make our transition from Cyclone-based mech into Siege Tank-based mech. We have a few units still moving around on the top side and looking to advance forward. Cyclone's getting a lock on. A Queen gets taken down. Over on the far left, and Clem continues to wander around with a group of units as well. These Roaches actually might get a catch here. Ling is buying some time, forcing the Cyclones back up the top. Cyclones aren't incredible just yet because they don't have the mag field, and this is going to be a lot of losses. Clem's going to lose every Cyclone. This is a beautiful movement by Dark to minimize what Clem can do here and to maximize his kills. Beautifully done. The Banshee's poked in for some drones on the left side, but that was mostly dealt with, so for the amount of Cyclones lost there, Clem is in a major ditch right now that he's going to have to drag himself out of in this game. That ain't going to be easy, and Dark already just advancing forward with Roaches, swarming this front position, and this is where you're going to see Clem's supply really struggling a little bit, and the real consequences of losing so much for free on the other side of the map. Okay, the tanks will survive. The tanks will be what keeps Clem alive here, and the Banshees can then chase for some damage too. You're making Hydras behind this. Those Hydras will be nice to actually help against the Banshees if nothing else, and well, maybe Dark overstepped his boundary here, as he actually takes quite a lot of damage on the return. Tax moves over the side, just going to drop on down. We do see a couple of extra command centers beginning to build, and our Lings and our Roaches just going to get pushed away. So tanks providing good coverage there. Swarm Host the next step from Dark. I love them in this scenario. I think Clem's too far behind to deal with them properly, basically. I think he's going to actually have a lot of trouble trying to deal with this. So let's see what happens. Groove Spines finishes immediately into Muscular Augments and just continue to improve the Hydras. Like I say, the Swarm Host coming on the field. We'll see what Clem can do, but I think the issue is, even if Clem defends the Swarm Host, he's going to be pinned back heavily by them because he's a bit behind. and Dark is just going to take over the game from there. So if this first wave or two of Swarm Host is survived, brilliant. But I find it hard to see Clem survive it in a way that doesn't just give Dark complete and utter control of the game. Losing those Cyclones on the top was a major mistake, and Clem has to fight hard to get back in this game from then. Hellion run-bys like this, getting rid of some drones and so on, they're steps in the right direction. Like I say, Clem has work to do, and he is trying to do it. 10 drones go down. Dark already playing a low eco because he's playing Swarm Hosts. They're very efficient, so you don't need a high economy. First round of Locust dropping in, trading out against a couple of the siege tanks already. Okay. Like I say, I feel it's actually a pretty decent start from Clem. He didn't take too much against the first Locust wave. He deals some damage in the meantime. Let's see how he can do against round 2. That might be a good question in the next couple of moments as to whether Clem will continue to survive, or if Dark might find a way to break through here on Babylon to tie up this series. Banshees on the left will actually cloak, but it almost cloaked as though he's like, there's no Overseer, I'll cloak, but there was multiple Overseers, so that's not an issue. As they do find a chance here, though, not many Hydras to get some damage done. They pick off a Ravager, the Locust drop in on the right side. They find a cluster of tanks, but there were Hellions there to try and minimize the damage taken. I'm afraid about all the friendly fire that's going on. As the tanks busy themselves with Locust, the Ravagers and the other units get to obviously deal damage without taking damage themselves. That's where the efficiency of the Locusts come from. Those are the units that are taking the damage in these bust-throughs. And it does feel as though, for the moment, Dark is making decent progress every time. He's not doing crazy amounts of damage, but he is slowing Clem down. He's keeping Clem busy. He's not losing the other units, so he just needs to wait for the Locusts, and boom, you can go and fight again. And I like that approach. I think that's the absolute correct approach here at the moment for Dark. I think he should continue in that kind of direction, honestly. Here we go. Locusts are coming forward once more. Flings, Locusts, Ravagers, Hydras. Everything just swarming the frontier. Vikings in the sky going to go after a couple of the Overseers this time. Clem does not have enough to hold on. And like I said, just too much being done. Attack after attack by Dark. Too much progress being made. And Clem doesn't have to leave the game. It really came down to the Cyclones being lost up here. Like, that was just... It just set everything else into motion. From there, Clem didn't have the numbers to keep on surviving, to keep on going. And even when Dark kind of overcommitted with some roaches, that helped Clem maybe get back in it a bit, but Swarm Hosts were always going to be tough to figure out and to deal with when you're in that sort of a deficit as Clem from such an early stage. Game number 3 here now, between the Red Zerg in the top left from Dragon Kaizi Gaming. Of course, he is Dark. Absolute beast of a player in tying this series dealt 1-1. As in the bottom right side, our blue Terran from Team Liquid. It is Clem. Roddy does a great job with the weekly anyway. I was going to say, sorry, I just got distracted by something. I was going to say, honestly, Roddy is I love how passionate Roddy is with the weekly. Especially because he's just so passionate about a lot of the other players, like a lot of the players I play before the later rounds. And he's just so passionate about those matches that it makes for a much better show than what I put on, because when I put it on, no one really cares about the first 2.5 hours, so... yeah. Well, this is going to be seen. Barracks coming up, hatch, gas, and pool coming through. A couple of drones coming in. As we get this one going. Clem's in the bottom right. I feel like I got distracted from my intro. He's from Team Liquid, of course. But yeah. Roddy's passion for the weekly. I feel like Roddy loves the weekly more than the players. There was actually a point where they asked us a question about, like, I think they asked a bunch of people at one point about, like, oh, would you like to see more money invested in the weekly events this year and stuff? And pretty much every player said no. That does not sound like a good idea. That's not something we want. And I think pretty much everyone was like, no, like, the weeklies are cool, but, like, we don't want the weeklies to be that big of a thing. Because, like, we'd rather just... And I think Roddy was like, this sounds amazing. The weekly should have, like, $2,000 every single week. Let's make the weekly the world championship, A lot of the players don't like playing in the weeklies because they don't feel like, having to play for the majority of EPT money every single week, every single, weak and just kind of having to grind EPT points and so on from them so much, so I think a lot of players didn't want to see them be any bigger than they already are. I think especially a lot of that is because, again, it's not even necessarily about the weekly, it's about the fact the first 2.5 hours for Pro is just kind of smashing players that you're meant to beat, 99.9% of the time. It just takes a lot of time to start getting into the more meaningful matches, so a lot of the guys don't necessarily love playing in the weeklies either, so kind of a lot of the same reasons why I don't enjoy casting, the first couple hours of the weeklies and stuff. People coming around, Queen coming through, Hatchery getting set up here in these early stages. People coming around, Rex going down, CC setting up, a couple Queens and drones will continue to come on through. And yeah, just a Queen heading out over the left side. Reaper taking a little bit of damage. Let's get back in this game. And yeah. I mean, pretty standard opening, really, right? Nothing was lost here. No cancels, no anything fancy, just a little bit of micro back and forth. The early game of TVZ playing out for the moment as our factory moves off the reactor. And Reaper and Helene just still hanging out in the center for the moment. Couple Marines coming up, Stimpack is coming through. Starboard's still coming in, the Marines are coming out, the Ling speed is about to finish up. Obviously, as the Ling speed completes and our Stimpack comes in on the side of Clem, we really start to get into our first bio game of this series, which is fun, because we always like seeing Clem's TVZ bio. So excited to see if we can really get this going in the next little bit. Our Stim is still continuing in. And again, the reactor building from Clem in the next few moments as well. Grezvan is a map. Actually, Grezvan's not a bad mech map as well. In fact, when Clem played in Katowice, Grezvan was kind of the go-to map for him when he was, deciding to play mech. And yeah, now as a Roach Warren drops down from Dark, we'll see what his style provides for us here too. So just interesting that Clem's now moving away from mech, kind of on a decent mech map and stuff. Like I say, his bio play is good. As Dark goes into Roaches, Dark's Roach play is also very good, and I feel like we're going to start seeing both these players start playing some of their absolute best possible StarCraft. Because I feel like Dark plays at his best when he's playing this creative, weird, roachy stuff that doesn't always kind of add up together to give kind of the output players are expecting. So, kind of excited as to how this will pan out. Got that creep looking through the center, and Marines pressing forward. 1-1 upgrades on the way out. The Lings continue to produce 24 Lings on the way out at the moment as the double Evo chamber continues up as well. Marines into the center. We'll be able to go through a whole bunch of this creep spread. One missile still coming through. The 1-1 upgrades continuing in on the side of Clem. Obviously, with the missiles, we're going to commit through these Roaches. Be interesting to see how committed Dark gets with the Roaches. Like, how aggressive are we going to be as our Lings come over? Our Marines lift up. Medivacs go boosting away. We unload. We pull back over to the sides. Roaches, missiles, Roach speed all continuing. 1-1 combat shield building up on the side of Clem as well. Marines ready to push into the middle of the map here, and just seeing how 1-1 upgrades our combat. Obviously, as that gets done, we're going to see the absolute peak of this Marine play. Few moments of calm here just to get missile upgrades coming in, the Roach speed. Clem's going to start maybe moving out a little bit with the rest of this army. He is starting to advance through. This is where it's kind of questionable, right? Now he comes into the center. A couple of these creep tumors getting picked away at. Our Marines, our tank. Just going to come all the way into the middle of the map here. Second tank going to siege up and get going. Marines continue through. Ling, Roach, Ravager going to come in. Marines will fight pretty decently, honestly, against the first wave. But the Roach Ravager comes from behind as well. Going to spread out that tank splash damage a little bit. Is that going to be enough for Dark to wipe this? It will be. And I felt like at the start of this, Clem's army was doing pretty well. Things were just dropping from Dark's side, but it's took a kind of a nasty turn in the end. Clem just getting overwhelmed. Too much Roach Ravager in the back. Mendovax is going to boost through, just going to unload, just going to see our tank firing, Roach Ravager still going on. I mean, the Marines stemming forward here actually do some pretty good damage. They get to punch on through this. I mean, 16 SCVs went down, but at least Clem is kind of in with a fighting chance again, at least. Marines fall back over the right, couple more Lings going down. The Roaches, the Ravager continuing to fight here. Just going to be seeing. The Marines still pressing through. Medevacs continue to heal. Roaches, the Ravagers continue to get pushed back. Couple more creep tumors still going down. I mean, Clem is hanging on in there. I mean, my issue, I guess, is the fact is obviously his economy is not going to be great, and Dark should have rounds upon rounds of production coming out from here. Roaches, Ravagers continue to press into the center. Marines and a couple tanks coming through as well. Gonna go lifting up. I mean, obviously there's just too much Roach Ravager. This is the issue. Dark has so much production available because of his economy, and I think that's where Clem is always going to struggle to kind of stand up with this. Things, Roaches, Ravagers continue to fight. A couple of battles coming down. Tank goes down as well. We do see our Marines come in a couple different directions. Marines continue through. Our Ling's going down. Our Roach, our Ravagers continue as well. I mean, Dark just still maxed out, and even as Clem kind of pushes it back a little bit, it's just going to be the follow-on that's going to be the issue. More battles. Marines continue forward. Roach is taking a lot more hits. Corrosive battles continuing hitting some of these medevacs. The rest of this Roach Ravager just continuing on through here, and the medevacs will lift up, just about escaping away. Extra battles coming down. Army escapes down to the bottom side. Oh my god, those battles nearly hit all the medevacs. He did unclump them and just pull them out the way. I mean, Dark again, he can just keep on throwing units at Clem, and Clem just cannot stand up with this at the moment. 19 SCVs dead. Again, just, I mean, the same issue just building up even further here. Well, Ling's going down. The Roaches and the Rabs continue through. Marines continue to stand and fight. Our Roach is taking mega damage. Our medevacs do just pull away. Our Marines backing it up as well. I mean, like I say, Clem is just hanging on for dear life. There's not much he's got going on right now. Marines come forward. Ravager, Roaches continue to take some extra damage. We're just going to fire. You see the Roach Ravager getting knocked on down, and a couple more corrosive vials. Tank is going to get nuked. Dark is going to have enough to win out game 3. This is going to be a 2-1 victory for Dark for now. But it's not done yet because it's a best of 5. What happens going into the bottom right corner? We're going to start off this map with Clem, our Blue Terran, here on Neo Humanity. Must win to keep this finals match alive. Top left, Dark. Map away from ESL NA title. Cracks coming up, SCV on the way through. Command center. It's pumping out SCVs on the front. Catch gas, all on the way. Again, nothing too exciting just yet. Everything kind of just as expected. As we move on by again. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Just wanted to make a quick mention. Again, thank you all for watching and joining us and enjoying some games, even some replays. Obviously, again, lots of content this week. Also, just wanted to mention as well that if you are watching on YouTube, this is the kind of match that we usually put on YouTube. Clem, Dark, people want to watch that. Obviously, do maybe take a moment if you're this far in, probably enjoying the video. Consider dropping a like, maybe subscribing to the YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Appreciate how much love the YouTube's gotten lately. So just a quick shout out to the YouTubes and the Twitch chats and everyone. Appreciate you guys. If this is our last game of the day just for Twitch, it's probably going to be our last series if it is our last game of the day. I don't think... I don't have much else I want to jump into today. I think it'll just be a good wrap-up. I kind of was hoping that this would have at least another semi-final in it, but... yeah, the list of choices, or the choice of games from this replay pack was only limited, was kind of limited, and the only cool matches were really that first semi that I saw and this finals. But yeah, I was kind of hoping to be something chunkier in when I decided to do this, but yeah, just unfortunate that there was not. But shout out to whoever it was that submitted these replays, that we had some replays at all. Otherwise, we would not have been able to cast any of these games. So whichever awesome caster sent these replays into the ESL admin team to put in the Google Drive, you're our hero. A few more drones, link speed all coming up, the factory command center coming through, a couple additional marines also coming out right now. Now CC about to finish up on the natural, so that's going to be finishing any moment now. Our factory is also about to be done. And just seeing our orbital command, a couple extra marines, everything continuing in for the moment. Link speed is going to be done. Obviously, waiting to see if Clem's going to try another bio game, go back to mech. Obviously, last couple games, mech or bio has not worked out for him. I feel like he would have quite liked to play a bio game against a non-roach style, perhaps, or at least not the attack that Dark was setting up for last time. So maybe we try bio a second time, and we just, obviously, be a little bit more careful about what we're setting up into, a bit more careful about the fights we take, know what we're pushing into a bit more, you know, a bit better. Definitely could go a long way. Couple lings coming in, SCV taking some damage. Other lings will move forward. And just gonna come through, go after those couple marines. These lings just running by. Obviously a few more lings than usual created in Dark. He's gonna get in for some decent damage. Widowmine split is decent as well, and he gets a couple lings on the south side. 8 SCVs dead so far. Now the Widowmine dies as well, and Clem is just out of, well, it just doesn't have anything. A couple of marines left, and maybe not enough for these lings to be able to get through them, but yeah, I mean, that's obviously a pretty disastrous start for Clem. That's damage you're not meant to take at this stage, and okay, it was an investment from Dark, and despite all of this, Dark's only 4 workers ahead, so I mean, that part of it's good. The problem for Clem is there's still marines or lings running around his base. He's not even got his natural landed again, so he's still being delayed in terms of building back up. I think that's where the problem's really going to come from. I think that's going to be the issue as we continue by. Fusion Core now starting from Clem as he sets up for the follow-up here, but I mean, this is a lot of damage taken, and of course, the main thing as well is you lost a lot of units here as Clem, and by losing these units, now you don't have, you know, a scary counterattack potential. So Dark can get away with building so many more drones on the follow-up to this than he would have otherwise. Marines, Hellions continue to move around. Hellions hanging out on the right. Medevac's gonna come boosting up the left. Queen's coming in. Medevac's just taking some damage. And again, just continuing through. A couple more factories continuing out. The refinery's still building up. Clem gonna fully build into mech on the back of this BC. He's got on the go. And Dark already has some roaches that are just moving across the map, so he's already going to the other side and seeing if there's maybe something he can get done here, continuing onward. We'll see Lair on the way up as well, attacking up out of this opening. The BC shows up and starts to harass, so we'll keep our eyes as to whether that will be enough to cause some chaos here. Just doesn't feel like he's going to be able to do enough. Not with the roaches around. I'm just going to leave the game. Kind of an underwhelming final map of the series, unfortunately, but sometimes it just be like that. GG's. Dark takes the 3-1 and wins out here over